Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's greatly appreciated. My name is Rob Cunha, and I'm with the Business Development team here at Emergence. Today, we are featuring the CPM, or Corporate Performance Management Software tool from Prophix. We've had a long and strong relationship with Prophix over the years, where we have used their tools across many industries in Bermuda and to solve different business problems for our clients. The CPM software from Prophix includes forecasting, budgeting, and planning functions, as well as KPI scorecards and dashboards to display and deliver corporate information. Joining me today from Prophix are Chris Porter, who is the Partner Account Manager for North America, and Mike Carroll, who is the Director of Solution Engineering. So with that, I'll turn things over to Chris. Chris?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Rob. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Porter. As Rob said, I'm the Partner Account Manager here at Prophix, in charge of the Emergence account. In today's agenda, what we're going to cover off is sort of the current challenges or current needs that we hear from Dynamics GP customers in the world of budgeting and reporting. We're going to kind of frame up the idea of how that can be reimagined using technology like Prophix to help streamline and automate your processes. Mike Carroll will then go into a product demo where he'll walk you through the software and the solution. And at the end of it, if you have any questions or things you'd like to bring up, please utilize the chat bar on the left side of your GoToMeeting screen. I'll now turn it over to Mike and take it away.
Greetings from Austin, Texas. I hope everybody had a great morning, and thank you for spending a little bit of time with us this afternoon. As Chris said, my name is Mike Carroll. I'm responsible for the solution engineering team here at Prophix. Those are the guys that do the demos. I a little bit about myself. I spent 15 years in the accounting world, so I've sat on your side of the table and done the things that you all are trying to do. In the last 25 years or so, I have been in the software space, almost exclusively in the corporate performance management space. So I've been around the block once or twice. So our agenda for today is I want to highlight a few of the current challenges, which is probably going to be a little bit of like thank you, Captain Obvious, because you guys are all living it. I want to talk a little bit about how you should think about the budgeting and reporting process. We'll talk about where the opportunities might be. I will go through a short demo, and then as Chris said, there will be some Q&A at the end. So the time is right for a change. Support for FRx has stopped. Microsoft Answer is Management Reporter. There's some cloud into the future of Forecaster. These are kind of forcing you to think about change. And when we think about change, let's not just pave the cow path. Let's truly innovate. And the questions you should ask yourself are you getting the answers you need from your business questions? Are you getting them efficiently? Who and how many types of questions? And secondly, are you getting them effectively? Are you getting them in a timely manner in order to make decisions that can right the ship or correct some things? So what I want to do in the next few minutes is get your wheels turning. I want you to reimagine your reporting process, your budgeting process, your planning, and your analytics. Essentially do some window shopping, if you will. So we can show you what the capabilities are, and I want you to imagine how you could use those in your environment. Now, there's a lot of technology at your disposal, and now is the time when finance can innovate. You've all heard the term modern finance, and part of that is being a modern finance department is reinventing these processes that we're talking about. That way that the finance department can add value, they can provide faster information, more timely information, and simply more depth to the data as well. If you're a baseball fan, think about Moneyball. That is a situation where analysts came in and they gathered more data, they gathered broader data, they created better processes, they did more analytics, and what that allowed them to do was create a baseball team that was competitive for championships but on a tighter budget. It's the same kind of logic here. We're finding ways to increase your efficiencies, to increase the accuracy, so that you can run your business a little bit better. To do this, we have to evolve. We have to create some efficiencies in our data collection. There's a broad array of data out there that can be beneficial to us. The reporting needs to be easy to use. The data needs to provide some insight and some foresight to where you're going, and it needs to be easily consumable. And we also can't forget about the fact that there are certain regulatory requirements that reporting, in some situations, that reporting has to adhere to as well. Now to be clear, this is not purely a technology challenge. It's not the application itself. It does take leadership. It does take training. It takes process. Technology is the enabler to the whole process. So what are the challenges that you're finding in your way right now to becoming a modern finance team? Having sat in your chair, finance is interesting in that it has to look backwards and forwards. You're looking at prior performance to try to better forecast the future. Finance has an interesting perspective on the business over time. Finance operates in time buckets. You have monthly closes and quarterly closes and annual closes. And the finance department also has the broadest reach. Just about everything a company does will touch finance at some point. So in the FRx and the Management Reporter and the Forecaster world, where are the challenges? We understand that data is difficult to integrate beyond the Dynamics GL. So think about what other data could you use. Is there operational data or manufacturing data, weather data even? We have a customer that is leveraging weather data. They're a ski resort, and they're leveraging weather data to better plan how many people they need on the lifts and in the restaurants and so forth based upon the weather. Does the lack of this other data, how does it limit what you can do and how you can plan? It's difficult to go beyond the financial numbers as we're talking about. And I'm not sure how you have a whole picture without having all of the data integrated together. There are certain aspects of your business that may plan at a different level of detail or a different time scale. For example, sales and production, they typically want to look at things at a daily basis, where accounting and the finance group tend to look at things on a monthly level. To accommodate for this difference in the time series, it usually means you're creating these different silos of information that don't necessarily talk very well together. Your processes are limited. How you can do your allocations, how you can do your forecasting, how many budget versions or scenarios can you have, those are typically limited in a GL world. So where do you turn? You typically turn to Excel. Then you run into the issues with Excel. How many formulas do you have in your various spreadsheets and your reports? Sometimes those spreadsheets are they're hard to reuse. They require heavy maintenance, heavy hours, and frankly, there's a lot of risk. All of these things are limitations to your organization being agile, to your finance group being a modern finance group. And of course, in the big red tag on the bottom, it's how long will some of these things be supported. What you're looking at here is called the Gartner CPM maturity model, and it kind of highlights the steps in a corporation's journey to total corporate performance management. Now, what I want to talk about here briefly is that, again, this is your maturity, your organization's maturity towards a full CPM, and Prophix can be that enabler. Prophix is a fully featured and deep functionally across all aspects of these processes. Prophix is focused on the business user. It is built and designed by finance for finance people. As I said, I spent time on the finance side. Most of our consultants have spent time on the finance side. We understand what you guys are trying to accomplish. Two of our driving tenets to our development is ease of use and more automation, automating the things that take time and add errors to the process. We can provide web access for the end users across all browsers and all devices. That means everything from your iPhone to your Kindle to your iPad. And we're built upon the Microsoft stack. So we have SQL as our underpinning, and we integrate seamlessly with Office and SharePoint. There'll be some things as we go through the demo where it will look like something that looks like Excel. Just know that it's not. What it is we're leveraging that same standard and those same menu choices and those same icons. Same look and feel makes it easy for our end users to adopt. Now, Prophix is a recognized leader in this CPM space. What we provide is a single platform that fulfills all of these CPM requirements. It's a product that with a common user interface and essentially no coding or no customization is needed. With Prophix, you can do your budgeting, your planning, your forecasting, as many different scenarios or versions of that data as are required for any given fiscal period. You're capable of doing your financial reporting, your statutory and your regulatory reporting. Prophix is capable of dealing with financial consolidations, including intercompany eliminations and partial ownerships. To us, data is data, so we can plan around things from an operational nature, like number of units and throughput, and create operational plans. We do provide dashboarding and scorecarding, so you can see where things are, and we provide the capability to do strategic planning. So I want you to, as you move through the demo, think of it, it's almost like these aspects of Prophix are like Lego. You don't need to dump the whole box of Legos out on the floor and build everything immediately. You can take each piece where you start. For example, start with budgeting and reporting. You might mature into forecasting and analysis, and then you've got the wherewithal to extend into the cash flow planning, operational planning, and those kinds of things. What happens is, as you move through that and become a more sophisticated and better planning finance team, you start to add more value to the organization. The finance team becomes a strategic business partner in the process. So here's our first polling question. Let me make this accessible to everybody. So the question is, how many different individuals are currently involved in the planning process at your organization? Now I'm going to launch the poll. I'll give it about 60 seconds. I would ask you guys to click on the answers and get your answers back to me. And again, this is part of the for the CPE credits. Looks like we have a lot of activity here. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and let's share the results. So it looks like about 40% of you on the phone have about 6 to 10 people that are part of that process, with another 20%, so 60% of you essentially have more than 50 people involved in the process. Interesting. Okay, so let's move on. So where are the opportunities? And frankly, there's lots of them. In order to be an enabler and provide the vehicle to take your organization to a full CPM maturity, the software has to be easy to use, yet it still has to be powerful enough to manage and include all types of data within the application, all types of users, and should be able to go beyond the financial numbers. It needs to be accessible and collaborative and mobile. It needs to provide flexible reporting, and that means, yes, statutory reports or the standard report books that come out, but it also means ad hoc analysis, and it also means the capability to look at a number in the Prophix world and drill through to the transactions that support that particular value. With Prophix, you can model your business challenges at whatever level makes sense. So, for example, sales can plan at a daily level. You can plan your headcount at the individual level, and yet stick all those Legos together, roll all of that together so that your total payroll numbers feed over to your general reporting environment. Your capital expenditure planning or your headcount planning can roll over as well. Your sales planning can roll up to a monthly level. and be fed across to provide the broad reporting perspective that you need. The advantage is you can utilize workflow to automate this entire gathering process. The calculations are all centralized. They don't live in the templates or in the worksheets or each tab of a worksheet. The allocations are all centralized so that you have confidence that the number is calculated the same way and allocated the same way. And we need to provide reporting that highlights anomalies in our data and provides transparency so that we can figure out where things are coming from. From a budget perspective, it's got to be able to provide consistent and accurate budgets. It's got to reduce the risk and the duplication of effort, which will, again, provide more time for analysis and a deeper understanding of the business. From a forecasting perspective, you have to easily be able to combine your actuals with your forward-looking version and automatically roll that forward each month. Let's say you're going on a rolling 12 or a rolling 18-month forecast. And from a dashboard perspective, it should be able to show you the health of the business in visual cues so you know exactly where to focus, and it should be able to go from high-level values down to the transactions. And when it comes time to do that report book, we need to automate that process as well. So what are some of the symptoms you should be looking for? If you're running into some of these issues or some of these constraints, here's some food for thought that makes you a candidate for talking to us further. First of all, are you calculating some of your key metrics outside of your reporting system? Are you doing that in Excel and pulling the numbers across? How time-consuming is your report writing? Is that done by IT, or is that done by a system administrator, or do your users have the ability to go into a tool and actually create some of these reports? And if you're forecasting, are you forecasting at a high level, or are you doing it at a lower level? I see a lot of companies that will do the forecasting at a high level because that's the only way they can turn it around in a timely manner. And again, we can provide some facilities that help you with that. Here's some things, again, to think about, some symptoms that might be impacting your company's growth or at least putting some risk into your process. If you're using Excel, that means there is a ton of formulas in every worksheet. And we all know, and we've all experienced those times when a calculation breaks or somebody inserts a row or a column and it makes a mess of things, and it takes a while to figure out where things are coming from. Again, a lot of times budget cycle just takes too long to consolidate all the data. And again, to save time, people just raise it up to a higher level, or they simply do a top-down budget and push the numbers out. Which means if it's a top-down budget and you're pushing numbers out, it's hard for the recipients of that budget number to really buy into that number and own the number when they don't have much to contribute to that value. And it's difficult to consolidate the information during the cycle. You typically have to wait till you collect everything and then do the consolidation, see where you are, and then go through the process again. So if any of those things on these last two slides are something that impacts what you do every day, then you should pay close when we go through the demonstration. Now here's just a couple of quotes from some customers. I'm going to leave them up here so you can kind of read them, but a couple of things I do want to highlight. On the first one there at the top, automation took this process in their business from 4 hours to 5. Again, automation is the big key here. The middle quote talks about the Office of Finance. Prophix has made the Office of Finance more valuable. The last customer quote, it talks about the ease of use, little IT support, and again, the value of automating the process at every turn. So now it's time for our second polling question. Let me share the question with you. The question is, what is your company currently using for budget planning and reporting? So let me find the question and launch that for you. You should see the poll now. Almost 70% have voted, and it's 100% Excel. Interesting. Oh, there's somebody in the general ledger. Okay, well, let me close this, and I'll put the results out there. So 83% of you voted, and we had 80% are doing your budgeting, forecasting, planning, and your reporting in Excel. So this we ought to be able to provide some value to you as we move through the demonstration. All right. So the demo overview. Let me kind of give you a roadmap of the next few minutes here. I'm going to start with the dashboard. We're going to investigate some values that we see in the dashboard. We're going to drill down into some reports. I want to talk a little bit about just general budgeting and some techniques and tips that we can provide there. We're going to look a little bit at operational planning. I want to stress the fact that we can plan at different levels of detail with different aspects to the plan. And then we're going to talk a little bit about report distribution. So let me get one more question out of the way. What is your biggest concern when implementing a new solution? So let me pull the question up and launch that. And I promise this is the last one before we get into the demo. We'll give it about 30 seconds and see what we get. Okay, that's 83% have voted again. That's 30. Let's see. I'm going to close this and share it with the rest of the group. 60% were all of the above. Interesting. And 30% revolves around the effort and the installation, etc. Interesting. Okay. Well, again, thank you for your participation. And with that, let's see here. I'm going to jump over to my demo environment here. There we go. Okay, so where we are right now, first of all, I want to highlight the fact that I'm using Google Chrome. I am using a web browser to access my dashboard. So what we have here is, again, I'm using Google Chrome. So I'm using a web browser to access my dashboard. Again, this is my dashboard. The dashboards can be customized to the content that is relevant to individual users. A couple of things I want to highlight here. All of these are navigable. All of these you can click on and drill up or drill down. I do want to highlight over here on the right-hand side is my tasks. This is my workflow. These are the things that I am responsible for. This is my part of the process. So I have always had my to-do list top of mind of the things that I need to accomplish as part of my day. You scroll down a little bit further here. And let's start with looking at our department operating expense. Now, if we look at the chart here, we can see that we've got something going on over here in marketing, and that we've got a huge variance, a negative variance going on. Now, I can double-click, and that's going to drill into this particular dashboard for me to another level. And we can certainly see that product marketing seems to be having some issues going on here. That's a number that we ought to go investigate. Now, what I want to do from this point forward, if I right-click on this, I can drill back up. I can drill directly through to transactions. But in this case, let's hop to the report that is connected to this metric, or that supports the dashboard you just saw. You'll notice the grid, it does look like Excel. Again, that is for the user adoption, makes it very simple to design reports, etc. So now we're looking at the report that supported that particular graphic that we saw on the dashboard. I can navigate through the various hierarchies. In this case, it's the marketing hierarchy, and you can see I've got marketing, or I can look at the individual components of marketing. I can flip across the months, so the report can be designed to be very dynamic. Keep in mind, too, that based on one report is going to look at the user who's accessing that report and collapse that report to the data they're entitled to see. So, for example, if somebody logs in and they're not able to see utilities, this report would collapse and not show that line. Now, I can see where my variance is here. And let's investigate that. But I don't want to click through and do a bunch of things. I just want to right-click and let's analyze this. And when we talk about analyze, what we have done is we've taken the same report, and now we're looking at essentially a raw view of the information that we can slice and dice however we want to. So, for example, if I want to see what this looks like over time, I can take January and drop it right on top of my variance. And my perspective is going to change to show me my variance over time. I can look here and see that the bulk of my number is coming from travel costs. Let's go out to travel costs and drill into that. Again, hierarchical nature to the way we organize our information. Yeah, I can see that I've got a bulk of this is coming from airfare. Now, I wonder which group this is. Well, in order to investigate that, let's do another drag and drop. I can take my group and put it right on top of airfare and pivot those two values and see that the bulk of that issue that I have is coming from my product marketing team. Okay? I wonder what happened. Let's look at the transaction. I can right-click and drill across, and we have now left Prophix and drilled into the source transactions from the GL to pull up just what we asked for, which was a particular month or a particular cost center. And if you look right here, I would bet you that that's probably the culprit. That expenditure right there looks out of place with the rest. Now, if your general ledger has the capability to store images of certain documents, we can actually surface that as well. You can see I have a link here that takes me to the actual invoice that is that $15,000 for that $15,000 transaction. Okay? So, let's think about what we just did here, right? We went from a dashboard, right-click and drill down to a report. We looked at that report. We thought, well, we need to do more analysis. We right-clicked and we got to a place where we could actually slice and dice the data. We found exactly where our anomaly was coming from, and we drilled through to the transactions to support that, all in the context of using our web browser and being able to slice and dice the data that I have permission to see. Okay? So now let's do the next thing we need to do. Since I've identified that one expenditure in January, I want to account for that in next year's budget, because I'm assuming if they thought it well enough to go to that particular conference, they're going to want to attend that conference again. You can see that I have operating expenses down here as part of my workflow. Let's leverage that. Now, I'm in a template here that is to do my operating expense planning for 2017. I can come in here, of course, and I can drop numbers. What is indicated here is the shading is telling me that those are places where I can input values. The values up here at the top, it's not shaded. That's telling me that value is coming from someplace else in the application. And we'll go into that in a little more detail later. So I can, for example, come here to this cell and type in, I want this to be $1,500. And Prophix is going to accept that. It's going to roll that number up at where it needs to go, etc. But rather than dropping numbers in individual cells, I want to show you something that's a little bit more powerful and has kind of wide-ranging capability. Let's go change this number right here. And notice that's my total for 2017. You notice that my forecast is at 99. My budget raised this number to $99,000. And when I do that, Prophix says, okay, wait a minute. I know that what you put in is a number that's at a total. How do you want me to spread that down to the children of that number, to the children of that account? In other words, all the months. So I can spread it evenly. Typically, I don't see that done very often. You may want to spread the data based upon the existing profile. In other words, you have built seasonality into the numbers you've collected already. I don't want to change that seasonality. I just want to raise the number. But more importantly, if I click here, I can now go spread that value based on any other information within my application. Maybe I want to spread this based on headcount or square footage, or perhaps you're opening in a new store and I want to model the revenue of the new store I'm opening to the one we opened 3 years ago. I could leverage that particular profile, bring it up, and spread the new number based upon that. It's a very, very powerful way to make top-side changes and do scenario planning, leveraging just putting numbers in at a total level and broadcasting that back down. In this case, I'm just going to spread it based upon the existing data. And Prophix is going to take my number and spread that number out based upon the numbers that were already there. Of course, if I was doing this on a forecast and some of these months were actual, it would have held the actuals constant and spread that value over the remaining budget months or forecast months. Another thing to notice, you notice the little red triangle. This indicates that there is a comment on that particular intersection. Now, I can look at a report for all the comments, but one important difference I want to highlight here is that particular comment is associated with that particular intersection in the database. It does not live in Excel and be only in that Excel cell. Anywhere I access airfare for January for product marketing, I'm going to see that little triangle that tells me there's a comment there. Whether I'm in a dashboard, another report, ad hoc, it doesn't matter. That comment stays with that intersection, which also means as you collectively build a number in a budget, there might be several comments of a collaborative nature as you build your particular number. The other thing I want to point out here is you'll notice there's a little blue triangle here down below this number. On occasion, there are times when you want to capture data below the GL line. I don't want to just know airfare. I want to know where you're going, the month you're going, and how many people are going. We call that line item detail. So, for example, if I come to this cell right here and try to type in a number, it tells me I can't because this account is tied to line item detail. When I go to line item detail, think of it almost like an electronic Post-it note. I can put in a description, I can put in the justification, I can drop the number in the proper cell, save that, and that number will automatically roll back up to the top and then roll up wherever else it needs to go. So this is kind of think of this as a free-form way, if you will, to account for things kind of below the GL line and give a little bit more detail, a little bit more information about the numbers you're collecting in your budget. Okay? Okay, so I do want to do one thing here. Let's just do one thing real quick. I want to flip over to content marketing, and I'm doing this for a very specific reason. I want you to notice that up here, we've got no values. And I told you a second ago that where it's not shaded tells me that value is coming from a different part of the application. So let's go complete this part. The next thing I need to do on my to-do list is I need to get my payroll information in for my content marketing. So let me do this. I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and I'm going to go to my department personnel. And while this looks a little bit different, it's because we're planning at a different level of detail. Here, I'm actually planning at the individual level as opposed to the intersection of a set of accounts or departments or cost centers and time periods, etc. I'm actually building very detailed calculations into this particular aspect. Now, we call this particular functionality Detailed Planning Manager. We leverage employee planning as a way to show that because of there are so many calculations that are driven off of headcount. But I want you to think about other ways that you can use this. We have customers that use this for project planning. We have customers that use this for capital expenditure planning. Anything that is below the GL line where you want detail and you want structure, then you can leverage Detailed Planning Manager to accomplish that. Let's take a look at what this looks like. Let's look at Sarah, for example. And if I edit Sarah's information, you can see what we're asking for here is just a set of questions, a drop-down list, etc., that are driving all of these calculations that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. So based upon her position, I'm driving whether she gets a car allowance and a cell phone. Here's her base salary. There's the retirement match based upon her selections for your health and dental and vision. I'm driving other calculations. I have the state that she lives in. Some states have state income tax. We would want to deduct that as well. But all of these values, simply filling these out, the end user doesn't need to know anything else. And again, we're going to assume that an individual has the rights and security to see this kind of information. But what these selections in that list are driving these values that you see over here. For example, there's earnings spread out over the month, taxes, etc. And yes, of course, if we can start and stop things at particular times. Maybe you have some headcount that you're going to bring on board later in the year. You can start and stop things. Maybe if you have interns that are going to be there for the summer, you can start and stop. We can build in functionality for a lag. For example, a person may come on board and 3 months later is when they actually start to contribute to the 401k. All of those kinds of calculations can be built into Detailed Planning Manager so that all an individual has to do is come in, drop in a few numbers, make a few selections from the list, and the rest of the calculations are all done for you. Again, centrally. There is not a calculation that lives in each of these particular cells. Right? These calculations are being done within the database. So now if I just do this, let me update this, which is essentially sending this information at this detail level back up to my plan here at the higher level. Let me update this, and my numbers flow right in. So when we talk about integration, we're talking not only about integration from different data sources, but we're talking about different aspects, different Legos, if you will, of the product being integrated as well. So if you make changes in one place, it will flow through the entire model. I have a customer that does fairly extensive project planning, and that project plan touches the income statement, it touches the balance sheet, and it touches their cash flow statement. So instantly, they can go make some scenario changes and update that and see exactly what those changes, how they might impact that particular scenario going forward. Now, one last thing I want to talk about here. Let's go ahead and close a few of these things here. I do want to open this example of sales planning, only because it's slightly different in its process and the way it handles things. Somebody obviously is a diehard fan. Here's not going to be trading. We have some humorous people that make up our demos. What we have here is we're planning by product, by customer. So I have the ability to come in and change units or change rates and have that calculate things that are going to impact my numbers here and then roll them all the way up to the top. And notice as well that this is done at the weekly. So again, I bring this up to show an example. Changing the units will change the calculation. Changing any of the variables of the calculation will change the results. And we're also planning at a different level of detail. In this case, we're planning by week. Again, this rolls up into months. The month's number is then transferred over to a financial month. Anytime we talk about drill through, we drill through to where the number came from. In our prior example with the dashboard, we drilled through to the source. In this case, if you were looking at some sales numbers and wanted to drill through, it would take you back to the workbook, the template that supported the input of those numbers to begin with. Okay? Now, the last thing I want to talk about is we're at a point in the process where we have all our budgets are complete. We're rolling with monthly forecasts looking out 18 months. We have everything put together. All our data is from different sources. It's all coming in and flowing into our respective reports. How do I distribute this information? Some people are going to be okay with coming to a dashboard and clicking on something and bringing up a particular report. Others are still going to want things sent to them. They're going to want reports distributed to them. And Prophix has an automated way of doing that as well. So let me do this. So what we have here is what we call a report line. And what it includes is, this is including a couple of things. It's including some narrative. So notice these are Word documents. So it is including some Word documents that has some cover page and some narrative about the numbers. And then it's going through and it's including all of these various reports. The thing that I want everybody to realize here is that it is collapsing these reports based upon the security of the recipient. So, for example, if Chris is part of the West leadership team, when I run this report and distribute it to Chris, it's going to collapse every one of these. Maybe there's 60 different pages of reports in here. It's going to collapse these to the 34 or 35 that pertain to the West business unit and only give Chris what he's entitled to see. So you can set up these reports that cover the entire business, and security will restrict who can see what, and report distribution will automatically distribute those reports at whatever frequency makes sense. I have a lot of my customers that will, this will be the last step in the workflow. Once everything is, books are closed, CFO has signed off, he clicks a button on workflow and all of these reports are generated and emailed out to the various recipients. And just so you can see what that looks like, here is kind of what the finished product looks like here. And if we scroll down, we see all of our various reports that we have as part of the process. Again, this would have collapsed to only show what an individual is entitled to see. All right. With that, let's go for our last polling question, and then we will take a look, and we'll let Rob close things off, and we'll see what questions we have out there. So we're always interested in topics that are relevant to our audience. So for our next webinar, we've got a list of topics here. If you'd let us know what you might be interested in, let me share that. Poll is open. And let me share that. And it looks like the majority want to see something on the master the art of innovative budgeting, but I'm surprised at the number of cloud or on-premise and performance. That's interesting. Okay, with that, I want to turn it back over to Rob to kind of finish up, and then we'll see what questions we have in the chat box, and we'll take it from there.
Thanks a lot, Mike. That was an excellent overview of the Prophix tools and capabilities. And and for the people on the call, if you would like to receive additional information on what you heard today from Mike, please contact Emergence, and we would be pleased to follow up. Are there any questions?
There's a few. There's a first question here that asks, is Prophix on-premise or cloud? Great question. The answer to that question is both. We are hanging our hat on the fact that we're offering our customers choice, whether they want to deploy on the cloud or on-prem. It's the same code base either way. So that was a great question. Let me see. There's a question on on supporting interacting with Excel. Yes, we actually have a Prophix for Excel, so you can pull numbers back and forth from Excel from Prophix into Excel, from Excel back into Prophix. As a matter of fact, you can actually we can automate it to the point that when that Excel file shows up in a particular directory, we can sweep that information back into Prophix and do that automatically. Let's see. There's one more question here. It's about forecasting. We did touch on that briefly, but yeah, Prophix can provide. There's no limit to the number of fiscal versions you might have for a given fiscal year. For example, you're obviously going to have actuals. You may have several different versions of your budget, like best case, worst case, baseline kind of thing. And then you may reforecast every month, which means at the end of a fiscal 2017, you may have 12 or 13 versions of your data, of that particular data set. Prophix allows you to keep all of those, and then you can do variance reporting across any and all of those, because it may be very important to understand what is the difference between what I forecast in February and what I forecast in April. Right? Secondly, we provide the automation in the sense that you can design your forecast templates that essentially all we have to do is change what the current month is, and that means that template would now, let's say we go from March to April, that template would now then pick up from actuals from January to April, and then whatever you're seeding your look forward with, your forecast with, whether that's budget data or last month's forecast or whatever, automatically populate those results as well. So Prophix can automate that, so all you're doing is worrying about how you want the numbers to be and the impact of those numbers on your overall performance. Rob, Chris, with that, that's the last question. I'll turn it back over to you guys, and I guess we sign off.
Yeah, thanks again, Mike and Chris. Much appreciated, and thanks to everyone dialing in for the call. This concludes our call. I think as follow-up, Selena will be sending out an email with the CPE credit and also a copy of today's presentation. So with that, we'll end the call. Thank you, everyone.